it's the same issues that are rearing their head. The inability to win the ball in the air, the lack of discipline, the dysfunctioning backline.
We were bullied. They came through the front door. There was nothing flash about what they did, Tony. It was aggressive. It was forthright.
The penalty count was actually 10 all. The difference was that they turned, as you say, that number of penalties into points.
Yeah.
DSPN, the Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome to the post-mortem, people. It's going to go on for, I would say, a couple of days, if not a couple of weeks, ahead of the first test against South Africa. Here we are. Round one done of the Rugby Championship. And for the first time ever, every team has a win. We've got plenty to talk about. We've had a good 24 hours just to absorb what went on in Buenos Aires. Tony Johnson from Sky Sport is such an asset to us. Just a little bit of background here. We first met in 98. Tony has been a very well-respected journalist for well over 3 decades, and you've been calling rugby now. First was on the radio, then at Sky for well over 25 years, 26 to 27 years, Tony. Hosted his own programs, everything else. Tony joins us every week, and normally he's calling these games as well. All right, so in a word, let's kick it off with that. In a word, how is the nation feeling right now, Tony?
Disfrustanoid. It's a new word, Martin.
I'm going to disfrustanoid. Disappointed,
yeah,
frustrated,
yeah,
annoyed,
yeah,
and effed off.
Well, I didn't know. I was thinking more a P word.
Yeah, well, let's see. Okay, that's fair. Look, I know. I would have said confused,
So
bemused.
That's the difference between you and me.
and not amused. But yeah, I'm still sitting here thinking. And as we were just setting up the microphones, and that one of the things I said to you was, did we just have a really bad game? I mean, I'm trying to think, maybe we had a really bad game, but normally in a game of test rugby, if you have a bad game, not everyone has a bad game, but so many of our players just, compared to the previous week, just went backwards or didn't front.
Yeah, okay. Well, if you break that clever new word down, disappointing because maybe aside from the line-out drive and also a period either side of half-time when they defended really well with 13 players, other than that, there wasn't one aspect of the performance that measured up to, let alone improved on what we'd seen at Cordoba in the first test. So that's
disappointing. Yeah, okay, give that a right.
Frustrating because it's the same issues that are rearing their head. It's the inability to win the ball in the air. Mm-hmm. It's the lack of discipline and the yellow cards.
Yellow cards.
And it's the dysfunctioning backline. Continue to be the 3 main bugbears of the performance. Annoying, I think people will probably be annoyed because this is an opportunity missed to go back to New Zealand with a lead, not a comfortable lead, but certainly an advantage. You go back to Auckland with a 4, even 5 point, because if they'd won that game, they would have got the bonus point because they'd already scored 3 tries. Talking about ifs and whens here, but there was an opportunity to go back to Auckland with a 4-5 point buffer with 3 of your last 4 games at home. That's a useful advantage to have in what is an extremely competitive rugby championship. And, well, the other one...
we just are because we're the All Black fans and we lose. And we get... Of course, there's just... I mean, I was kicking cans all day yesterday about this. Okay... I don't even know where to start. Let's start with the 40% possession and 40% territory. And Scott Barrett says, and Mex bangs on about this every week, and he's dead set right. You can't win test matches overseas when you get 40% of the ball. You need 50% of the ball. So we didn't have the advantage of being down their end. We weren't getting the ball. Well,
they were getting the ball. The line-out certainly did splutter towards the end of the test, and that's the first time this year that's happened. The line-out has been extremely good, but they missed out on a few there. The scrum battle, seemed pretty even, nothing really going on right there. It was what they did with the ball that I think determined that stat, and those 2 stats, possession and territory, the kicking game, which... the ball spends a lot of time in the air in test rugby, and it's what the team does with it. If you are defending, your ability to defuse the bombs, if you're attacking. And look, the way the laws are now, Martin, they very much favour the team doing the kicking because you have to clear a path for the chaser. Everything favours the chaser now. So you need to be really well organised at the back to deal with that because you've got players coming through with all the momentum to contest the ball in the air. So what that means is that your kicking game has to be accurate. And that's where the Springboks were much better, the accuracy of their kicking game, and it's where the Pumas were markedly better because their kicks were more contestable, and too many times in that test the All Blacks kicked away possession, which really moved the needle on those stats that you're talking about. So I think the territory and possession, it's not just about the set piece anymore. It's about so much of it's to do with what you do with the ball.
Aerial combat stuff, Tone. This isn't the first time. Okay, so
put it this way, Martin. You could go through a game and you could dominate possession just by keeping ball in hand, but not do anything with it and still lose the match.
Okay, it's like football, isn't it? You get 80% of the possession, you don't score a goal, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I watch a team that does it every week. This aerial thing, though, 2009, it was a crisis in All Black rugby. The Springboks had beaten us 3 times that year, I think 4 in a row or something, and in came the original bomb squad, which was Israel Dag, Kahui, and Corey Jane.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because we needed to find ways to diffuse that. Are we all of a sudden facing the same problem again?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
And the thing about that, and it's funny you should be thinking about that because I cast my mind back to that this morning. I was involved in a documentary that we made for Sky called The Weight of the Nation, which you can watch on YouTube. It's a really good look.
This is the 2011. It feels like a long time ago. It doesn't feel like a long time ago when we're talking about it now.
Not at our age, no.
Not at our age,
but I actually did the interview with Graham Henry for that, and one of the things that had stuck with me was the response to 2009, where the Springboks were all over the All Blacks. They had Furi de Pria, the master at halfback, putting up those contestable kicks for the likes of Brian Habana, JP Peterson to tear after, and they were causing mayhem in the All Black backfield. And Graham Henry said they lost all 3 tests. And what Henry said, the bit that resonated was, the silver lining out of that was that it made us think. We had to sit down, and that's quite a brains trust too, Henry, Hansen, Smith. We had to sit down and think about what we were doing, how we could deal with this situation, what changes we needed to make in our strategy, and what changes we needed to make in our personnel. And you'll remember that out of that actually came quite a radical shuffle where Smithy got taken out of the attack role and put into a defence role, which really morphed into turning defence into attack. But number one priority was about dealing with the high kicks. And they made those changes at the back, where obviously by the World Cup you had Izzy at the back, Corey Jane, who had the complete fullback skill set and played a lot of his rugby at fullback, on one wing, and Richard Kahui, who they decided, even though he'd played most of his rugby as a centre, some at the wing, but it was just his ability in the air, and so they picked the team around that.
Wow, okay.
And
makes sense.
It's an issue at the moment.
Yeah. It is an issue, yeah.
I don't think it's conceivable that they can continue to operate that same back three, because they really didn't go very well. Now, Will Jordan's a brilliant player, and didn't have a great game under the high ball. I think with players of his class, you can probably excuse a bad game.
Bad at the office, sure.
But
absolutely.
Sevu Reece just kept getting caught in no man's land on defence.
That last yellow card was exactly that too. I mean, if he doesn't catch that ball, it's a yellow card. But he was inside 2 defenders at that stage, which is why he was going for it, wasn't he? So.
Even the yellow card for Will Jordan came about because he darted in off his wing, slipped, and that left 2 players on the outside, one of whom put the kick ahead, and that's where Jordan moved into his line.
World Rugby are watching, though, these days. You know that as a player. That means the TMO can go back and look at things, and that's just a rugby league shoulder put in there, and it's just so goddamn obvious. I mean, that all discipline on 3 cards. We're going to jump around a few topics here because obviously there's lots to talk about, but 3 cards, when you're getting pounded at the line like that and Tupuvai there's always a player that gets carded for that, okay? And but those other 2 were unnecessary. 6 kickable penalties, of which they kicked 5 we gave away. Now, if we do that at Eden Park, there's a guy called Pollard who is going to get all 6 of those.
Yep.
So again, that discipline issue is major, isn't it?
The penalty count was actually 10 all. The difference was that they turned, as you say, that number of penalties into points.
Yeah.
And also 3 yellow cards. Now, that's 5 yellow cards already in the Rugby Championship. Last year in the Rugby Championship, I think it was 7.
In total.
Okay. So that's something that's trending to get worse. So that has to be sorted out. But as I say, getting back to the back 3 thing, look, it's inconceivable that they can put that same back 3 out there. Jordan obviously stays, and he played really well in the first game. The question remains, do you put him at fullback again, or do you move him to the right wing? I think Narawa's got a fullback skill set as well, by the way, on the right wing. But you could put Jordan to the right wing and bring in Ruben Love, who is fearless. He will come forward for the ball. He will get himself airborne. That's something that they have to consider.
Did they debut him against South Africa at Eden Park?
Exactly. That's the corner that they've kind of been painted into.
Yeah.
And then the left wing where Rico Ioane last year was looking like a winger playing centre, now looks like a centre playing wing. It just
hasn't kind of worked.
I wonder whether there's a confidence issue permeating through that
and he wasn't going up for it
too.
either. He's a big lad and he's pretty fearless himself. He throws his body in, and so
So I mean that's the decision that they have to make. But getting back to the original point that I made about going back to 2009, they have to sit down and they have to think this through
and figure it out.
And they have to figure it out, and they have to figure it out whether it's just a matter of better performance out of the players that they're using or choosing, or whether it's about making changes, whether it's about shuffling, because the Springboks, we saw at the weekend, they kind of went back to what they're best at.
They weren't that impressive either,
No, they
Tony.
weren't, but they went back to what has been their hallmark.
Yep,
and their eyes will light up at the opportunity to do that at Eden Park, where they haven't won for such a long time.
Pollard is so accurate with his kicking as well. I mean, look, and the other thing with the contestable ball, go back to the quarterfinal, France versus South Africa in Paris in 2023. The first two South African tries, from my memory, were just whacked up in the air. It's aerial ping pong up there. It's basketball. The ball bounced on their side. Because if you want to break up a pattern in Test rugby, throw it into the air.
Yep.
Throw it into the air, because then it's anybody's. It can get knocked forward, knocked back. Players can bump into each other. It just seems to be a tactic now, which if you're getting strangled a little, that's kind of the leveler, isn't it?
The saying's always been that a kick's only as good as its chase. I think the Springboks over the years have kind of flipped that, because it's...
You think the kick's as good as the kick?
Yeah. Well, the chase is as good as the kick. The kicking game, just on point. They don't kick long. Their stats are incredible. The amount of long kicking is minimal.
Well, why do we do so much then?
Well, sometimes it's your only option, but it's got to be good. And I think Justin picked on a point early on in the French series where a lot of the All Black box kicks were actually coming back infield, whereas he felt that they should be more directed out to the wing. And that's one of the things that the Springboks do, that they kick out towards the wing, where you've got a guy who's isolated.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the kicking during general play as well, the restarts. The All Blacks kicked deep quite a lot. Argentina were able to contest their own kicks, and when the All Blacks did kick short, all the Pumas did was that they put a guy on the other side of the guy challenging in the air, and the ball fell into his hands. So that was quite smart as well. So that's a major work on is the kicking game, the makeup in particular of the back three, how they best deploy the resources that they have.
It's got Caleb Clark written all over it.
Well, there's been a lot of clamour for Leroy Carter, and as I said to you, I would have loved to have seen him play in this game just to see what he could do in that situation. I know he's put a lot of work, has had to put a lot of work under his ability under the high ball. But Caleb Clark, if he's fit, we've seen him develop this game where he reaches up a la AFL, two hands above the head, plucking the ball out of the air. So that could be an answer too, if he's fit and available. You got to remember too, back in 2009, the All Blacks had Mick Byrne.
Okay, right.
Former AFL player, Mick the Kick, big man.
Kick, yeah.
And they developed this technique of how to get into the air safely, be it mainly on defence, but also on attack. So
I watched Richard Kahui explain it on a Sky Sport program one night, and it was just like he did it for about 15 minutes. I was glued to the television. It was the way he did it, protecting his body, given only a small target to aim at if you're the defender, all this kind of thing. The backline itself, though, Tony, is a shambles, and it still is. And look, I mean, now you have to start naming names. Jason Holland's the backline coach. We've had 5 games now this year, and that backline is as clunky as it has been probably since the start. We've seen flashes, glimpses of it, but surely there's got to be a much more coordinated effort. But these are all good players that are playing out there. Why is the backline just such a muddled thing at the moment?
Well, I said it before. I just wonder whether there might be a bit of a confidence issue there. Definitely there have been signs that trying to play it fast and furious, which has kind of been the mantra of Razor Robertson from day one. They want to use the ball, they want to play a high-tempo game, but you have to earn the right to do that. And I think the first backline movement that they tried in this game. They were trying to spread it. The defence was getting up in their face. Ball goes to ground. You're getting passes, backdoor passes that are going to no one, things like that. Do they need to dial that back and just maybe get some front foot ball before they start trying to spread it or loop around, whatever? But there's no question that's another area that needs a lot of work. Look, they've got a person in the periphery of that team who I think could be a big help in a situation like that, and that is Wayne Smith, who does have a role.
A lot of people have been suggesting that on the comments and keep them coming in about, I mean, I'm sure that he's a phone call away. It's this guy loves New Zealand, loves the All Blacks and loves to help, so he's done it several times.
Well, either that or they back themselves to find the answers. But when you've got a guy like Wayne Smith who is there in an advisory role...
Oh, okay, right, there you go. All right, okay.
Then why not use him?
Okay, we were bullied. They came through the front door. There was nothing flash about what they did, Tony. It was aggressive. It was forthright. What I really love about the way that Argentina played, though, is... just for their own self-confidence. I mean, they're a team that gets up and then they don't play so well the next game. Well, last week they weren't going to win that game at Cordoba against the All Blacks. For them to turn it around like this and to play like that, where every one of their players is so committed and everything else, that's just their coach. I mean, Contapone, you've got to give the credit to him, don't you? What he's done to that team in a week. We went that way in a week. They really raised their game in a week.
Yeah, it's not untypical of the Pumas, though. Normally it's the other way around. They come up with a really good performance, win a game, and then drop their bundle the next. This time it was the other way around. Look, I'm glad you brought that up because it's not just all about how the All Blacks didn't play well.
No, I mean, our postmortems are about us, but let's give credit to these guys.
Absolutely. That was a terrific performance, led, of course, by Pablo Matera, who was just outstanding. I like what they've done with the leadership of that team because Pablo as a captain, you could see the eyes start to blaze. And
I kind of like that.
Yeah, but whether that's really what
you
want
need in the calming moments of a game, sure, all of that.
Montoya, has a very good calming presence about him. He's a very good player. Remember, he played in the shadow of Creevy for such a long time, and now he's in his element as the leader of the team. But Pablo is the spiritual lead from the front guy. He's the first man.
Was
he
the guy, Tony, when they first beat us, that he did that thing at the ref yelling, "I'm playing for my country" or something? Was that him?
Yeah.
I think that was him, wasn't it?
I remember
in Sydney?
I remember the first time I met him, and I think he was barely, 18, 19 years of age when they first put him in the team. And Frankie, our mate Frankie Dagus, arranged
Frankie's on the podcast today too.
Interview away from the confines of the team. We met in a cafe somewhere, and here's this impressive young man. I couldn't get over the size of his neck. He had a neck like a bull, because just such a powerful man. But Frankie kept saying, "You watch this guy. He's going to be the next superstar of Argentine rugby."
Right.
And when you think about the superstars that had in the past, Hernandez, Hugo Porter, they've mainly been backs, but yeah, he was phenomenal. Also, they recovered from a massive setback, losing Albornoz, who is one of their rising rock stars, their key playmaker. To lose him so early and still be able to win the game. The ball, certainly, they got great go forward. The passion of those guys when they were carrying the ball was very evident.
And that's what Scott Barrett spoke about as well.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And then the ball tended to flow as a consequence of the front football, flowed better through their backline, and their wingers just kept finding themselves in space, and they are very dangerous. Doesn't matter who they put out, they've got a clutch of really electric wingers, and you can't afford to let guys like Delguy have space. And so, theirs was a very, very good performance. They didn't take advantage of the All Blacks.
No, they should have been a score up at half time.
Yeah,
they actually butchered a couple of tries there.
Well, phenomenal from behind tackle by Bowden Barrett.
Yeah,
when
got the ball.
Delguy looked like he was off to the line and suddenly got him from behind, the ball spilt loose. So
he was brave on defence, Bowden, no question about that.
Absolutely, terrific defence. But look, they absolutely deserved it.
Yeah, no question, Tone.
And what we have now is a situation where, to me, I think the best rugby of the Rugby Championship has been played by Australia and Argentina.
I would add in the first 17 minutes the Boks put down in Ellis Park, because that was, however, from that time. I mean, and this is, as if you're looking from the Northern Hemisphere, I mean, this is as a neutral. This competition has got everything at the moment, because we now go into round two, where I don't know. I mean, if we had won that game in Argentina, I'd say the All Blacks were firm favourites at Eden Park. And now I'm thinking Argentina go to Australia, and you would have thought maybe the Wallabies on their up, they were favourites for that, but we don't know now, do we?
No, and the thing about the Rugby Championship at the moment is you genuinely have this anyone can beat anyone scenario
Clear.
because that's what's
And that's
happened.
what Argentina did last year.
Australia have now won in South Africa. Argentina have beaten the All Blacks in New Zealand and in Argentina. They're capable of beating the Springboks too. There's that uncertainty. I know I've been pushing the barrow of expanding and maybe getting Japan and Fiji, and I'd still love to see that. But right at the moment, that I suppose the Six Nations, you look at it, they have got well over 100 years of tradition. It's a fantastic occasion. Every single game, the tribalism that goes with it, it's brilliant.
It's the best comp in the world
But
outside the World Cup. Yeah.
But there are also games in there that you know who's going to
course,
win. And
yes.
right at the moment in the Rugby Championship, there is uncertainty over every game. Even going to Eden Park now, where the All Blacks haven't lost since 1994, where the Springboks haven't won since 1937, there's just so much doubt over that. And I guess for the rugby fans who can, rise above their own blind parochialism, it's a dream scenario.
Look, it is. At the same time, I wish we were sitting here basking in the glory of winning 2 in Argentina and saying, well, the Boks weren't that impressive against Australia.
When I say blind parochialism, that's not an insult. That's not a criticism. That is just part of sport. But sometimes, we look at sport just totally from the angle of the team that we support. But if you're a purist of the game, this is a great scenario that's set up here. But bottom line is the All Blacks have got some major work-ons, or a laundry list, I think I saw it described.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good way of
describing
it.
Good line that will need to be rectified. And so there's going to have to be a lot of deep thinking going in initially, and then a lot of hard work.
And
on
you're
the
talking
training
about some
pattern.
personnel changes as well, which might now be forced.
I think there has to be. The forward pack, to me, probably the only change you're likely to see. Tyrell Lomax hopefully will come back into the scene. I thought Tamaiti Williams looked like a guy who hadn't played rugby for quite a long time, and we were expecting a lot of him, was probably expecting a bit too much, and it proved too that they made the right decision bringing him off the bench. He needed some game time. So the tight five, I think, set in stone.
I'm still not sure about the loose forward trio. I just don't know, because I thought that was our bang trio. I thought we'd brought back the big bodies there, and it didn't work against them, and so I don't know now. I mean,
Simon Parker, people are saying he didn't make a big impact. Well, actually, if you look at his numbers, they were pretty good.
Well, the forward pack didn't make a big impact. So
he carried the ball. I think he got more metres than just about anyone else in the All Black team, and he made a lot of tackles, but no one was making metres because they didn't have the ball long enough for people to be able to get the metres ticking over. So, but I think they'll probably go back to Satiti, Va'i,
and Artie.
is the combination I think that I would stick with. And then you've got a big man coming off the bench. Real shame about Patrick Tuipulotu. That's a big blow, because off the bench, his low carrying game, that is that's a nasty injury that he's picked up.
Tony, you don't get that going to work.
No.
It's fractures with a big dent in the skull.
Yeah.
This is the DSPN.